Hello, BookTube. Well, as you can tell from the calendar, although probably not from your internal calendar, where it feels like 5 minutes, we are reaching the end of August. We are reaching the end of summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. Kind of unbelievable, but August has a week left. And that will mark, in addition to everything else, it will mark the end of another raucous BookTube summer, where there were a whole bunch of events and they were a whole bunch of fun. There are a few BookTube events that I'm involved with that last all summer long. They end in August. They end with August. There are a whole bunch of BookTube events that are discrete to August, and they's end in August. And the summer ends in August. I mean, September will have its share of hot days. But the days are getting shorter. I very much know that. I noticed that because I'm on a clock for walking a certain someone. And we like to get in one last sunlight walk. And in just a couple of months, that's going to happen in the middle of the afternoon. But that doesn't free you of your BookTube responsibilities, because your BookTube dance card for September is crammed full of things. So I thought we'd go down a list of the things that you'll be doing with me in September. Starting with probably the best known of them all, which is Shorty September. I think this was created by a BookTube channel that is now in abeyance, but it's just as obvious anyway from its title, which is to read short works in the month of September. So fewer than 200 pages. And I could link to a whole bunch of announcement videos and TBR videos and suggestion videos and whatnot, in which all of BookTube conspires to make me pull my hair out by saying less than 200 pages instead of fewer than 200 pages. But we're all friends here, so I won't do that. Instead, this event is designed to get you through a whole bunch of shorter works. And you might think that I wouldn't champion it much. Not only because I'm sure that everyone connected with Shorty September hates me, but also because I love longer books, much longer books. I made no secret of that. But nevertheless, I do champion it. Because short books can be gems. They can be hard, wonderful gems. And when I do Shorty September, when I do it for book, I'm going to do a whole bunch of stuff with Shorty September in mind for 2025. And when I tend to do Shorty September, I tend to think of fewer than 150 or even 100 pages. Really short books, as long as it can be published alone as a book. So not a short story. But fewer than 200 pages is fine too, and there are all kinds of suggestions. I haven't quite worked it out yet, but I may do a book a day. A video a day for Shorty September. I have learned, I mean, the new Shorty September, I'll link to some videos down below, and there are a whole bunch of great prompts. A whole bunch. I will probably be ignoring the prompts and just letting my reading take me wherever, which will probably include a lot of the prompts. But I have learned bitterly in the last year that I can champion BookTube events without being welcomed by them. I'm not welcomed by most of BookTube. There are no good reasons for that. I say that without any self-aggrandizement at all. There are no good reasons for that. The people who don't like me, have never watched a video, never got to know me. The people who call me mean or evil are living 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes away from either a viewer or a fellow booktuber who's received kindness from me. Lots of it. It doesn't matter, and nothing will ever make it matter. I can't ever change that. And I have learned that I can champion a BookTube event that I like to you without being a co-host, without anyone ever mentioning that I'm championing the event, without anyone ever caring that I'm signal boosting what they're trying to do. I don't have to have that. I don't need that kind of affirmation anymore. So I am free to just talk about any BookTube event that I want. And I will, I think, make a video a day for Shorty September. One wonderful, or at least interesting, little book after another for the whole month. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And maybe some suggestions to you that you might like. But anyway, that's the biggest one. Then the next biggest one is probably Shaketember, formerly Shaketube, where in the month of September, Nicole at Day of Small Things, Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, and Jason at Chapter and Verse talk about Shakespeare all month long. And the roster, I said this before when I talked about Shaketember 2025, the roster of events that they've got planned for the month of September would be incredible if they were charging for it. Then you take a second to remember that BookTube is free, and it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, I will leave a link to their announcement videos so that you can see what they're going to be doing for the month. And of course, if you are the type of BookTube viewer who likes structure in your events, well, that would be a natural thing to do. The natural thing to do would be for you to structure your event according to what they're doing. Structure your event of Shaketember 2025 according to which plays they're talking about. But you don't have to do that. By any stretch of the imagination, all you have to do is read a Shakespeare play. And then maybe watch a Shakespeare play. YouTube has an unlimited amount of bounties in that regard. And probably whatever streaming services you sign up for have something like that. If you go up to the search bar on top, type in Shakespeare, I wouldn't be surprised. But that's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't decided what I'm going to do for Shaketember. Probably I will just read a giant swack of Shakespeare plays. Probably I will just do that. I know that at one point Kelly is reading and discussing William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. And I would love to do that myself. So I may do something like that myself. But anyway, that's another thing is Shaketember. Keep in mind, this won't always be true, but Shaketember dovetails with Shorty September. Oh, every play by Shakespeare has been printed as a book on its own at some point, many times, hundreds of times in the past. And they're all short. They can all be read in an hour. So that dovetails. They won't all, but that does. And then we can move on to the two most beloved book clubs in our little corner of BookTube. There's Roger's Cheap Old Book Club on Michael K. Vaughan's channel, the cheapest book club anywhere, because all the books are free on Project Gutenberg or elsewhere, other free ebook sites. And the book that we're reading in September is The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle. Now, if you want to go completely authentic with this choice, you don't have to, but if you want to, you will find a version of The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle that's illustrated by Howard Pyle. But it's also been illustrated by lots of other people. We saw one on my channel when I found a copy that was illustrated by someone else. I don't remember who. And don't I remember, am I remembering wrong that the brothers Hildebrandt also illustrated Pyle? Maybe I'm wrong about that. I think Arthur Rackham might have. Anyway, whoever the illustrator is, this is the most popular bawdlerization and boys' own storyification of the story of Robin Hood and Little John and Friar Tuck and the Sheriff of Nottingham and all that business. And Pyle is a good storyteller, a really, really good storyteller. So there, if all else fails, you can find a free copy of that on Project Gutenberg. For all I know, the copy on Project Gutenberg is illustrated. I mean, that might be solving the problem. Plenty, more and more of them are. So it might be solving the problem right there. Well worth your time to visit or revisit if you haven't read it since you were a little kid. And the other book club is the Lone Star Book Club from Randy Ray, the literate Texan. And he is doing the Lone Star Book Club all year long. And his choice for September is this. The Savage Adventures of Solomon Kane. Not necessarily this book. This is a Del Rey trade paperback. Del Rey, Ballantine decided to do Robert E. Howard right. They decided to do him really right. Every once in a while, the mainstream publishing industry will do something that makes you want to just cheer. And this whole project of theirs just made me cheer. These big trade paperbacks of Conan, but also Bran McMorn, a whole bunch of others, and Solomon Kane. This is illustrated all throughout by Gary Gianni? Yeah, Gary Gianni. It's illustrated all throughout by Gary Gianni, and it is incredible. There are spot illustrations on virtually every page, and there are also full illustrations all throughout the book, in addition to a lovingly curated edition of these works. Solomon Kane debuted in 1928. It's been published and republished, slapped all around. And the editors of this series, not only for Conan, but also for Solomon Kane and all the others, Cull and Bran McMorn and whatnot, decided to make an edition for the ages. Not just in terms of editorial curation, although that is true, but also in terms of just making it gorgeous. These are just incredible. I don't know if Ballantine ever offered hardcover editions of these things. Maybe not. Maybe they were thinking along the lines of the pulp roots of Robert E. Howard and thinking that would be against the ethos. We should make this a relatively affordable trade paperback. But these are worth getting. They're worth having. And this is... and also, this can be read in a month, obviously. In fact, leaving aside the illustrations and the editorial information in this book, the whole of Solomon Kane would be Shorty September, just like the whole of Cull would be. Not Conan. but you could read everything that Robert E. Howard wrote about Solomon Kane in 1 month. So there's a Shorty September for you. And I will try this. J. Scott Phillips just recently sent me this book as a taunt, as a schoolyard taunt. So I will try this again. I am no stranger to Solomon Kane. I have been reading this character for a long, long time. I have been trying to like him for a long, long time. I'd be willing to bet that I first read Solomon Kane before the host of this reading club was born. And it's never worked. Solomon Kane was a 1928 invention of Robert E. Howard as he was cranking his engine, spitting out garbage, trying to get to his millennial character. And he finally did with Conan. But that means, by definition, Solomon Kane is a misfire. And he is. He's not a barbarian. He's a Puritan swashbuckler. And he has a hat. He has a big, tall hat. He has a sword and a pistol, and he fights mostly men, but there's a supernatural element in these stories. And when the stories are at their best, which I have to say, I think the pastiche writers do better than Robert E. Howard. When the stories are at their best, you get to the heart of what had the potential to make Solomon Kane interesting, which is, although he wears the accoutrements of a relatively modern man, he exists in the age of the printing press. He exists in an age when there are no dinosaurs, or shouldn't be. He himself is a barbarian of spirit, just the same as Kull, just the same as Conan. That when the thing I mentioned about Conan is that he's this big bruising guy, and when you get him into a corner, you expect violence, and instead you get the end of the world. You get the end of the world. You get someone for whom there are no civilized boundaries. King Kull is a king. He officiates in matters of state. But when you push him into that corner, that's what you get. And it always surprises people. Even thugs are surprised by that. And the interesting aspect of Solomon Kane, the only interesting aspect, the accidentally interesting aspect, is that he has that same core. Robert E. Howard didn't write him that way. Robert E. Howard wrote him as just cod historical fiction. But other writers have realized that, that is the interesting thing about Solomon Kane, is that he shares that in common with the other characters that Robert E. Howard created. Good luck finding that in these stories. They stink. The only reason that the Robert E. Howard fans like Solomon Kane is because of his hat. As I've said many, many times before, if you wore a Hornberg or a flat cap or a 57-seat floater, gentlemen, do not wear straw hats in the metropolis. If he wore any other kind of headgear, no one would like him. And I don't care about his headgear, so I don't like him. But I'm going to give it another try for the Lone Star Book Club, see if I'm missing something. And the only way to do that, much as a fan of the ebooks as I am, I'm pretty sure the ebook of this has the illustrations, but the only way to do that is in this volume. Sorry, I don't mean to be exclusive, but this is the greatest Solomon Kane volume that's ever been done. It's full of illustrations on every page. It's just incredible. The only way to dress up this turd. But anyway, and then we'll move on to another September event. We're not moving far away from the Lone Star Book Club, because another September event is, of course, Cimmerian September, created by Michael K. Vaughan to celebrate his favorite author, Robert E. Howard, who he calls the greatest writer of pulp fiction. I think he's right about that. All of you know Michael's channel and his love of Robert E. Howard, and Cimmerian September has had themes in the past to guide you along. You absolutely do not need to follow themes. Mike would be the first person to say, just read some Robert E. Howard and you're fine. Just read some Conan and you're fine. There is no real guideline for Cimmerian September 2025. It's just you can read whatever Robert E. Howard you want. So again, there's dovetailing. This would count. This year, Cimmerian September is not restricted to Cimmeria. It is not restricted to Conan. Any Robert E. Howard. Robert E. Howard wrote a lot of stuff. Probably something that you would like, regardless of what you like or don't like. So if you think of Robert E. Howard and you think, oh, Sword and Sorcery, I don't like Sword and Sorcery. Well, he wrote a lot of stuff that isn't. And a lot of it's available. So you could try that. And I have a history with Cimmerian September of kind of going my own way. I don't know quite what's wrong with Mike, that he actually does still like me. He clearly hasn't got the memo. but even so, I think I'm going to go my own way with Cimmerian September this year as well. I certainly will not be reading any non-Conan Robert E. Howard, but you know what? I might not be reading any strictly Robert E. Howard Conan. I have a feeling that I want to go back to the comics. I spent 1 year on Cimmerian September reading Savage Sword of Conan, Marvel Comics' original big black and white Conan magazine, rereading all of those issues, reading a lot of later issues when I had given up on the title, and I loved it. I really loved the experience. And I'm kind of sort of thinking that this year for Cimmerian September, I might read my way through the Marvel Conan the Barbarian, the 4-color comic book that they were doing. Starting with Conan #1, illustrated by Barry Windsor Smith, when he was still plain old Barry Smith. I might do that. I've tried it in the past. I've actually done it in the past. Reading the Conan comic books, the original Roy Thomas Marvel comic, Conan the Barbarian, reading that from issue #1 to issue #100 is great. It's a great reading experience. After that, after issue #100, it's hit or miss. Really hit or miss. And by miss, I mean comics that you really don't want to read at all, that have no worth to them whatsoever. Even though I hate to say it, but even though I'm saying that about Gil Kane as an artist, I might read 1 to 100, or maybe 101 to 200, which I've given scant attention to in the past. I don't know, but I have a feeling I'm yearning towards the comics one way or another for Cimmerian September. Of course, I have a week, so that could change. But anyway, there's a double blast of Robert E. Howard, and then we can move on to a brand new event coming up in September, and that is Octember. I've already done a video about this. This is James at Quaint and Curious Volumes. He is originating a BookTube event about, well, it's a sesquipedalian event. It's about cephalopods. It's about octopuses. In any form or shape, in any way. So, and that's a large gamut. It might be larger than you first think. I mean, there's nonfiction stuff like The Soul of the Octopus and plenty of other books, nonfiction books, that are about the natural history of octopuses, the intelligence of octopuses, the problem-solving ability and whatnot, the evolution, maybe. But there's also fiction. There's fiction that involves octopuses, both dignified and non-dignified fiction. You could even go so far, if we wanted to get a little bit closer to the orbit of Robert E. Howard, you could go so far as to include Cthulhu, who has tentacles and is vaguely octopoidal. You could do that. Anything that comes close to that would probably be acceptable for Octember. And I am a co-host for Octember, and I am also informally in this little corner of BookTube known as King Tentacle. And I think it's almost beyond doubt that I will spend September reading tentacle fiction, catching up on the world of tentacle fiction. I fell into tentacle fiction in, what was it, a romance event a couple of years ago, where I ended up just reading tentacle fiction the whole time, and I got on an algorithm. I got on a number of algorithms, I probably got on a number of watch lists, and started getting bombarded with tentacle fiction, but I didn't read any of it after that. So probably in the last year, let's say from the beginning of 2024 to now, probably there's been a lot of new tentacle fiction published. And I will probably be reading it and reporting back. Good almighty. And that is the roster, but there's one other thing. It isn't technically a September event, but most of it is taking place in September. It technically starts on August the 22nd, and that is Robin Song Reads. It was decided at long last to do a read-along of his favorite book, Moby-Dick. That's pretty good company to be in. I think if we twist his arm a little, we'd have to be careful because he's got a tiny little arm and we might break it. But I think if we twist his arm a little, we might get a song about Moby-Dick, which would be a lot of fun. But he's going to do a read-along of Moby-Dick. And to me, that is just amazing. It made me, when I was watching his announcement, I'll leave a link to his video. I'll try to leave a link to everything here. When I was watching his video, I was grinning from ear to ear. He has read the book once, and he already knows that he loves it. I think he already knows he's going to be grappling with this book for the rest of his life, reading it, resampling it, relearning from it. And that is true. That has happened with me. And I'm, 10 years older than he is. So it can go your whole lifetime. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And the first installment of that is August 27th. But then it keeps going all through September. So if you want to reread Moby-Dick, or if maybe, God forbid, you haven't read it and want an enthusiastic environment in which to read it for the first time, Couldn't ask for better. So there you go. That's a crowded September. That is full of stuff that you could do. And I know that I've left out events. Tell me which events I've left out. I know that I have. But lots and lots of fun. The fun doesn't have to end just because the summer is over. So I thought I'd make this video and let you all know I will try to leave links to everything so you can go and see what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.